Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear Aaron and I? If you could just somebody tap in the chat, we'll get started. Awesome. Thanks, Luke and Angela. Shady and Say here with Rocky Mountain College up in Billings, Montana, as well as my counterpart, and I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Aaron Stucker. I serve as an area coordinator here at Rocky Mountain College.
And we're talking to you guys today about the surprising benefits of a pandemic. This is going to be a very interactive session, so we hope everybody is ready to get engaged with us today and have some fun. So one of the things that Aaron and I really spoke about this, when we were thinking about what we wanted to present on is how we looked at the pandemic as a positive for us, because it helped us evaluate what we were doing on our campus and why we were doing it. We preach efficiency and effectiveness all the time on our campus because we are a very limited resource, small campus like many of you, small budgets, limited staffing. So we're trying to figure out how can we do what we need to do the best way possible, the cheapest way possible, the fastest way possible without losing that effectiveness for our students. And when we were doing that,
you ever wondered what actors and actresses do when they have to get in shape really fast?
We're trying to skip through the song. This song just kept popping in our head, and so it's not about necessarily war, right? But what are our processes good for? And if the answer was absolutely nothing, we didn't want anything to do with it anymore, right? So we were really evaluating, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? And how can we benefit our students through that process? So that became our little soundtrack as we were putting together our presentation. So to get us started, we want you to be thinking about what are the 3 things that you or your team does most often. So what are those things? Who are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? What are the costs of it? Does it cost you time? Does it cost you money? What are those expenses? What are those costs for you? And do you wish there was a better way, or is it a process that you guys have that you've fine-tuned and you're really proud of? Because those are awesome things that we want to share today as well. So take a couple minutes to be thinking about these things. What are the things that you or your team do absolutely the most often? And we'll give everybody a couple minutes. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself. Feel free to type in the chat feature to share what those things are, so everybody can be learning and engaging with each other. But what are those things that you do most often? So while everybody's thinking about those things, we are going to do some sharing of our own. So Ellie, crisis response for the students, but sometimes it's reactionary because the faculty staff has reported it to us in housing. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we get our information from outside sources and we need to respond to it. Many times our students aren't communicating with us when they're in crisis, right? We do it for the well-being of the students. It's very extensive with time. since it's 3 hours with a student during crisis the day. Absolutely, Ellie. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, like we spend so much of our time being reactive, right? And we talk about that a lot at Rocky Mountain College. How do we free up as much time as we possibly can in our schedules and really our energy so we can be reactive, because we know those crises are going to happen with students and they're not going to be scheduled, right? A crisis is never scheduled. A broken heart, a lost family member back home, a fire alarm. Those things are never scheduled in our lives, and that is the population we work with. We work with life. And we need to be able to have that flexibility in our schedule. So what are the things that we do that we know when they're going to happen? What are our processes that we can identify and make more efficient to clear up a lot of that time in our schedule and our energy so we can be ready and available and refreshed for our students? So Erin's going to kind of talk about a few of those things, like the things that we can control at Rocky Mountain College that are truly our time suckers. Suckers by Stucker is what we're calling it. Erin Stucker.
Thanks, Shadeen. Yeah, so as you guys are continuing to share in the chat, I just wanted to kind of share with some of our lower level time sucker things. And you kind of hear us mention a few times like efficiency and effectiveness, and trying to do our best with time consumption. I think I speak for everyone that works in higher education when I say that. COVID made us really think about ways that we can do things effectively without putting as much resources and manpower into all these things. Again, I think everyone's understaffed and underutilized. So obviously, like the big ones, again, if you work in higher education, checking and responding to emails is first thing we do in the morning. I still have a hard time putting it away when I get home from work. Just a couple tools that we've been trying to use. Again, I want to say this a couple of times during our presentation, but here at Rocky Mountain College, we're pretty understaffed. So Shadeen is the director of auxiliaries, and I am an area coordinator. We typically have two, and it's just me right now. And so we have to try to save time wherever we can. So one thing that we use is it's actually a software tool called Type It In. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of it. But basically what it does is you can kind of program it to do large tasks for you on the click of a button. So if you wanted to do some data entry, you can click one button after you've programmed it in to hit enter, and then type in this, and then hit tab, and then type in this, and then hit enter to submit the form. And so I don't do a whole lot of data entry in my job, so I know Shadeen probably utilizes Type It In a lot, but it was something that I was shown when I got to Rocky, and it was it's really kind of a cool tool if anyone has to do a lot of that time, really like kind of grinding through some time on entering stuff through. It's really effective for that. And then we, of course, again, like I think a lot of other schools, we use a lot of standard template responses. So again, we get all sorts of different emails from students and staff and faculty and all that, but a lot of our standard ones that we're getting, we have some templates already built, so we don't have to sit there and type in, yes, you need to meet with your conduct officer at this day and this time. We kind of already have a template laid out that we just get to edit dates and times, and it kind of works a little bit faster than me having to respond to every single person throughout the day. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a frog in my throat this morning. One of the other things is conduct follow-up. Again, when you work in housing especially, or in student conduct, conduct is obviously a huge part of our job. And so what we've done is we've actually moved all of our hearings to Tuesdays. So we have, I'm sure other schools have it or have utilized something similar, but we have what's called a peer review board. We basically utilize, anywhere between 3 and 6 student conduct officers to help us handle some of our low-level conduct hearings. And so that meeting always runs on Tuesday nights from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that time is set in place because there's no classes during that time. And so the only thing that we have to try to work around is some athletic practices and stuff like that. But again, we have a good relationship with coaches to just tell them, hey, the student needs to make sure that they attend their hearing because of this policy that was violated. It's really important that they miss this 30 minutes of practice to do it. And so what we've done is not just scheduling our peer review board meetings during that time, but we can also schedule our administrative hearings during that time. So part of my job is overseeing peer review board, and so I'm there every Tuesday night anyway. That if we don't have a full roster, if I'm already going to be working 7 to 9, I'd rather get all my other conduct out of the way that time too, so that during my other office hours, I'm able to get some of my other work done. So anyway, that's been helpful for us in being effective and efficient with our time with conduct. We've moved again with COVID. We moved all of our hearings to being virtual, but again, as kind of our presentation is titled, we're keeping all of our hearings virtually. Again, COVID is by no means, we're not out of the woods with it, which is a big part of why we're doing it, but it's just been such an easy way for us to do those hearings without students showing up late, or, oh, I got caught in traffic, or, oh, I was on my way from this, from dinner or whatever. It's a pretty easy way for us to make sure that those meetings are starting on time and we can shuffle people in and out pretty quickly. So we've been doing all of our hearings virtually. And then again, just student safety. We don't want anyone getting sick. We don't want to have a pandemic breakout on our campus. So that's been helpful for that. And then again, just some of our standardized templates and typing in. I talked about that a little bit. And then our last one I added on here was our facility management. So spare keys, checkouts, room changes. And so we just try to utilize some ways to make sure that those processes are a little bit, maybe not quite so time consuming. And so just a couple things I wanted to touch on here for some resources, right? So like, again, I'm going to beat the horse dead, but at Rocky, we have to, again, we're a really small school. We don't have a lot of staff. And so we have to be really creative in how we are able to do parts of our job in order to get everything done. So again, I'm not giving you guys any information you don't already know with Zoom. Zoom obviously has been a huge tool for lots of schools, especially once again the pandemic hit. But we've been using Google Meet a lot. We have kind of everything kind of integrated through Google and Gmail and our Google calendars. And so Google Meet has been really effective way for us to have our staff meetings, for us to have our conduct meetings. Sometimes I have, I just meet with coworkers over it. So again, that's been a kind of effective way to do that. And we'll dive into some of these a little bit later in detail, so I can give you guys a little bit more of an idea. But we have some key return drop boxes. So when a student needs to check out their spare key because they locked their key in their room, rather than having to come and find a staff member or to meet face to face with the staff member, they can drop it in these key return drop boxes. Again, we're going to harp on safety a lot. We're still in the middle of a pandemic, so trying to make sure everyone is safe. We have these key access boards. They're basically a master key set that is centrally located on campus, so that if myself, any of the other staff members in housing, Shay Dean, our dean of students, our campus safety director, if any of those guys need to access our master keys, they have access to that since it's in a centrally located area, kind of all between all of our residence halls. So that's been really effective for us to not one, have to keep running all over the place trying to find keys, but also for our safety thing again. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but like Moodle and other online classroom platforms have been really big for us. We use Moodle to do a lot of our RA training before the fall semester starts. So we'll have them complete like an online course on Moodle. So that's been really helpful. We use Jotforms a lot. I'm not sure if other schools are utilizing it, but Jotforms are really effective for us to be able to, one, get feedback from students on things. So we can send students a link for a Jotform that asks them some questions. I think we're using our survey with Jotforms for all of our residents in our residence halls. And we have a lot of like our incident reports and such that are going through our Jotforms. And those are nice because we can manage that on the back end, make sure that those submissions are going to the right people. And so anyway, those have been super effective for us. I'm not sure if other institutions use that. Google Forms, very similarly, we use Google Forms a lot. Google email templates. So Google has some of their own templates set up that we utilize a lot to do some of that email stuff again. Type it in. Again, I've touched on that a couple of times, but that's really good for kind of some of those time-consuming things that a program could literally just do in a flash. It can enter and type this in and hit tab and then enter this in and then move to the next page. It's really nice for doing stuff like that. And then I just wanted to add on here too, like some of it is just kind of creative thinking, so with our current resources, we just had to kind of be creative. So again, it kind of takes a pandemic for us to, I mean, at least for me, I'm not very naturally creative, but it takes a pandemic for my creativity to kind of go to the next level. So, for us at Rocky, for example, we have all of our buildings are card access only. And so with the pandemic, again, for safety reasons and such, like, we only allow students into the buildings that they would need to go into. And so again, it's good for making sure that, again, safety reasons, people aren't getting into buildings aren't supposed to, but also for, again, like our residence halls, some of our buildings that do some of our business and stuff like that. It's been really effective for those as well. And then Shadeen, I'll let you dive into this.
Yeah. So yeah, Aaron kind of mentioned before some of the tools and resources that we are using here at Rocky Mountain College. And we would just want to kind of go over some of the RMC before and RMC after and why we've kept some of these after things in place. So one thing that we changed drastically from how we did it before was our residence hall checkout processes for our on-campus students. And the reason that we changed this is because it cost us a lot of staff time. But the main reason we changed it because of that risk of exposure. When we changed it, we realized how much more efficient we could be with another process to help address the staff shortage that we had. And we're like, why go back to it? It's safer, it's faster, so let's stick with it. So before, what it looked like, a student was emailed and provided a checkout guide. Those checkout guides are available hard copy or through that email that they were getting. Students, they would complete all items on the guide, right? Because we know our students do everything that they are told exactly how they are told it. Insert laughter from audience here. The student then would sign up for a time with a staff member to inspect their room. Thank you, Angela. And so they would have to make sure that they found a staff member whose schedule worked with their schedule to be able to go do that room inspection with the student present. The staff member would then inspect the room with the student and they would collect all of the keys. And then the staff member would submit the checkout information online, including any work orders that needed to be completed for that space. And then the student would leave. So, there's a bottleneck in here, right? A student has to find a staff member that's available to do it at a time that they're available. Which is difficult when we're working with student staff, right? They're taking classes, they're taking finals. And with a limited staff, that made it very difficult for our students. So now we only do express checkouts. It was kind of an option that we were exploring as a hybrid. You could do normal or you could do express, but we decided to just go with the express only. It helped with the lack of staff time. It ensured we were complying with our need for social distancing when the pandemic was kind of, I would say, at its peak, or what appears to maybe have been its peak. The resources that we needed for this change included an online form that students could register with or notify us, and those key drop boxes that Aaron referred to. This form was free because we already have the software, and those drop boxes were $45. So very, very low cost, secure. They are all placed in a location near a staff office, in a location that a camera is on them, so we can track and monitor. So we felt pretty confident about this process. But as we know, everything has an opportunity cost. And for us, this one was losing that face-to-face interaction with our students that we know is so critical. Like, we know getting some face time with our students is important, not only for whatever process we're trying to ensure that they're completing properly, but that retention. Having that face-to-face interaction is really critical through our retention efforts. And we're saddened by that. but we are still satisfied with the change that we have made with this checkout process going to an express. I had a comment. Our organization chooses not to use Google Forms, Drives due to the security concerns. Do you face those concerns? So our campus has purchased a FERPA level Google, and I can get you connected with our IT department because we were asking that question too. Our campus, we don't have an official conduct software, and that was one thing Aaron and I were working really hard on. I was like, how do we ensure the security of our information? And so when we went to talk to IT about that, they assured us that whatever form of Google we have is FERPA compliant. So we can get you definitely connected with them to get you whatever resource that is. We are convinced in Resonance Life that a computer and everything that happens behind it is a magic. And we call our IT department our magicians. So while we can't speak to the specifics of how and why, we can definitely get you connected with those individuals. So now after the process, so the student is emailed and provided a checkout guide. So we have those hard copies available if they want them at our Resonance Life info board, but they're also available online. It's also emailed to them. So there's lots of places the students can get that checkout guide, that checklist. The student completes all the items on the guide and returns the keys to the Dropbox. So they don't even have to find a staff member. The student, if they're leaving mid, sorry, let me back up. The student completes the online form notifying that they have left, that they've completed the check form. This is for end of semester only. So these are our students who are taking off that mid semester. If they miss this step, which we know some of them will, not a problem at all, that key return is our indicator as well. If they fill out that form, it just notifies our staff a lot faster so we can get somebody in that room quicker. Otherwise, we have to just wait for that key to be processed, which happens every day, once a day. But if they fill out that form, we can just get in there faster. So there's a little bit of a safeguard. The Resonance Life staff then go into the space. They complete the checkout. If there's multiple roommates in that room, we wait until all of the students have vacated that room. So that would be for like an end of an academic year. So we're only going into the room one time. We're not going into it with multiples. Where we'll go into with students still living there is if we had a checkout mid-year, mid-semester where the roommates will stay there, then we coordinate and do that. So like we said, the trigger is that online form was completed or that key returned to the Dropbox, and that information is shared. It looks like we have some more comments. Yeah, okay. So here's just a screenshot of like the top part of that Resonance Hall checkout guide, the paper form that they can come get from our info board, and what our drop boxes look like. We have we stock them with envelopes where they fill out basic information, who they are, what room they were in. We ask them to write the key code down, and then that ensures that the key is kind of secured with their name, and then they just drop it in that drop box. We have staff that are going around making sure that those drop boxes are constantly full of envelopes, that with multiple pens available. There's trash cans nearby, so if a student decides that they want to throw the pen away, we have sanitizing wipes if they want to sanitize the pen before to make them feel more comfortable. Those things are available for them. But yep, that's where kind of those drop boxes that Aaron referred to. So like we talked about, there was a few of these pandemic procedures that we put into place that we're really happy about, and so we're keeping. So that express checkout option that we talked about, the key return drop boxes, all of our recruitment for our student and our professional staff is all online now. So the application process, which has been fairly online for a while, but all of our interviews are virtual, both with our student staff and our professional staff. And we have found, yes, we are not fully staffed right now to the level that we want to be, but we're not quite confident is because that it is an online recruitment piece, something that we're evaluating. We may need to go back into some in-person stuff, but at this point in time, we feel like the safer option is to continue with an online platform for our recruitment. A couple photos of a few of the things that we put in place. So those key drop boxes, having more prominent information around all of our residence halls about where do they go for general questions, after hours emergencies. We transitioned to using our dispatch system for our emergency number rather than having our own housing number. Posted, and it has actually created a more of a streamlined process for us, because our housing number, we were getting a lot of calls that were not residence life or housing related at all. So by partnering with our safety office and utilizing their dispatch service, we were able to filter through the calls a little bit more to get to us. A few other ideas that Aaron referenced is for training, we use Moodle, we use Google Docs. We have a staff web page where we post a lot of information so then they can get trained up in more resources. Our move-in day is by appointment, so we do blocks of individuals. So I think that we do them in groups of 45, and that has actually created a really good customer service operation for our students and our parents, because we get to have a more one-on-one experience with our students as they are moving in. They don't feel the rush of a lot of people, and we do series of blocks throughout the day, and when it's not their housing move-in block and they're on campus, they are doing other things as part of their orientation program. So they're constantly doing something, but they're not feeling the bottleneck and the rush of like moving into their room. And our students and our parents have actually really enjoyed that more customer service friendly experience. As I said, our meetings at the height of the pandemic, we went to only virtual or phone call meetings. We are back to allowing some in-person, but when an individual schedules an appointment with any of our staff now through our online platform, they get to select what option they want. Do they want it virtual, and then a virtual link is sent to them? Do they want a phone call and then somebody calls them at that specific time, or do they want to come into an office? And every one of our staff members has their calendar available through our platform, where a student or a parent can schedule at any point in time an appointment with any one of us and get their appointment onto the calendar right away. Few more photos of some things that we've done. So another one of those drop boxes. So the one you see in this picture is actually outdoors and it is holding up well. We're not having any rusting or damaging. No water is getting into it. So we're really satisfied with it. On the right, you see those are what we call clamshells, so door lockout devices. So we have some apartment communities where historically we've had to collect all the keys during the winter break. And as you can imagine, students are really great at that, participating in that process. So rather than having that interaction, a student having to bring us a key, us having to hold the key, wait for the student to come back, get them their key back, we just put these lockout devices on their apartment doors now to secure the space. Looks like I'm going to just pause for a second so we can address some of the questions in the chat. They're talking about the damages and cleaning and deal with the dirty room after it's vacated. Absolutely, these were concerns of ours, and heavy concerns of our facilities and our custodial team, because they rely so heavily on our RA staff to ensure students are doing what they need to do. As part of like students signing up for or doing their checkout process, we reiterate the fact that any damages or cleaning at checkout will be billed for. We've started to share with them the price list for those, and that has been a deterrent for them being like, oh yeah, I'm going to vacuum my room because I don't want to have to pay insert dollar amount here for somebody else to vacuum my room. And our students actually did really, really well. Now, when we go into a room, if there is cleaning or damages, those are all photographed and documented, billed for, and then sent to the students, so then they can see, in fact, this was the condition of the room. If it is a shared room, that bill is split amongst all of them, and our students have been really good about negotiating amongst themselves of, oh yeah, that hole in that wall was this person. That person comes forward. So we really try to teach and preach to them that level of responsibility and taking ownership. We will always have, you know, that upset student and that upset parent, and we'll negotiate through those, but we've been lucky so far. Students have been great. They've been leaving the rooms in really good condition, and I think one of those things is them knowing that they're going to be charged for it. We're very upfront about it. We're very upfront about the level that they will be charged for those items, and then we go from there. So hopefully that helps answer some of those questions. They've been implementing a by appointment move-in. They still have large numbers show up before their appointment. Do you turn them away? So we actually did turn individuals away on our campus, but it was a partnership with our admissions office and our orientation office, and communicating that. That was something I was really, really nervous about, and I brought that to the attention of our administration. I was like, the first day they come to the campus is not a day that we want to upset them, right? So we were prepared for those individuals coming early, but it was a decision of our campus administration of like, we are going to hold people to their schedule. We're going to reinforce why that's important for the safety of everybody, and then also remind them there's just because you're not getting to move in right now doesn't mean there's not other parts of your task list that you can't be doing right now. Going to financial aid and finalizing that, going to student records and finalizing your documents there, going to the parent session, there's other pieces that we kept rotating them through, and that really helped. We had some traffic confusion with it this year that we learned from, that caused individuals to attend the residence hall meeting before they were supposed to. But like I said, we learned from that, so we'll change our traffic patterns on our campus to help with that. But yes, the administration made a decision like, yes, if it's not their appointment time, we are going to turn them away from this station, but we're going to redirect them to what station they are supposed to be at. Trying to move my, oh, there we go. A few more things that Aaron talked about is our campus doors remain locked, card access to all campus buildings. So this has always been a thing for our residence halls, as you know, I'm sure many of your campuses are, but we kept that in place for our academic buildings. That's just a safety thing, right? You know, there shouldn't be individuals in our academic setting that aren't supposed to be in our academic setting, and this was a way to help do that. The move-in day meetings and appointments that we talked about, the lockout devices that I just showed you, and then I also work with auxiliaries as a whole. So we have now transitioned our swim lessons and camps to online registration. And I laugh about this because yes, it took a pandemic for me to get that to 2021 to get away from paper forms to register your kids for camps and swim lessons at Rocky Mountain College. So very, very happy that we got to go that way. I'm very sad that it did take a pandemic for us to get there. A few more photos of some things. So like we referenced those individuals being able to get onto our calendar right away. So there's a QR code that's on one of our office doors that students can just scan. Those links are also available on our housing website. They're in every office door, every office window. So it makes it easy for students to be able to get an appointment with any of the staff members that they're wanting to meet with. Those master key lockouts that Erin referenced, and then we've expanded the offerings at our info board, so more handouts available to students based on process changes, frequently asked questions that are happening, just making information more readily available for them, not only online, but physical copies available. Where this board is at is a high traffic area in our student center, so we wanted to use that prominent space. Now like we talked, we're kind of shared a lot of our ideas and things that we've taken and implemented. Now we want you to start looking at your own processes. Is there areas where you can enhance your efficiency and your effectiveness? Looking at the examples at Rocky Mountain College, we'd say chat with your neighbor, but maybe use the chat feature, or your colleagues within your office. And we want you to dream big. Like, what are those big ideas that you maybe have that you didn't think that you could do before? But also dream small. Like, what resources do you have that you're maybe not using to the fullest advantage? So we want you to just take some time to be thinking about things. So like, what processes do you have? Who are the audience? What's the purpose, and what are the costs? That's where we want you to start.
I just wanted to jump in while you guys were brainstorming here and write some stuff down, and just just kind of remind you guys, like, housing is when I got into housing here, a number of years ago, my first AMHO was in Tucson, and I remember I just got into housing and I was trying to figure out how to do these things. I think this is my favorite part about working within residents' life and housing, is that people are always willing to share ideas that is helping them do things well, right? So remember, I was like, oh man, I want to try to streamline how we're doing our conduct, and I don't know how to do it. It's just me at this really small school, and people were like, hey, here's some ideas that we use. We're kind of a similar size school, or here's some things we're doing. And so again, that's what I love about housing, is that everyone's always willing to kind of offer some ways to make something effective. Or hey, it's the man in the hole, right? I've been in that hole before. I know the way out. And so anyway, if you guys just want to chime in as you guys are typing some stuff up, and as we start sharing here. Yeah, Emily, I just wanted to answer your question quickly, because it's a really good question. Again, if anyone that works in housing and conduct and all that knows, Lots of times residents don't show up to their conduct meetings. And so what do we do if they refuse one? So what we've done is, especially again with going virtual with these meetings is, and it happens, once every couple of weeks when we're doing this, is in our language to students when we notify them that they've been documented as being involved in an incident, we just let them know that we'll just have the hearing in their absence. So if they don't show up to the hearing will just take place, and then they just don't get to explain their side of the story or kind of take part in it. So it takes place in their absence. And so it happens sometimes, and sometimes they'll say, oh, well, I was busy, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, hey, I gave you a week heads up. I emailed you and told you that the hearing has to take place in your absence if you don't come. And then as part of that, they forfeit their right to appeal it if they do that. And so again, that usually pushes them to be like, oh, I got to make sure I'm there, and I'll have to skip my first 20 minutes of football if I have to. And so that's been helpful for us at least. Okay, so I wanted to just jump into this. So, and then the other part of this for our part 2 of this is for that, if you just wanted to put in there, like a reason for changing it, the cost of changing, the buy-in list and the to-do list. So if you guys just wanted to kind of add that to some things that you're willing to write down and share. Okay, so I'll jump back in here. So we're getting close toward the end of our presentation here, and so I just wanted to end with if anyone had anything that they were willing to share from those last 2, like our kind of our worksheets, and if anyone had any questions for us. Yeah, and I'll jump in here and answer Emily's question too. So at RMC, do these hearings normally end in fine, eviction, or other disciplinary action? I'm interested to hear what actions might take place. For example, a breaking into another apartment. Yeah, we do we do all sorts of things depending on the violation. So we've tried to get away from fining as a form of punishment. It felt very punitive to us, and so for us, we only fine when it comes to damages. So anytime it's going to cost the institution money is usually when we try to fall back on using a fine. But yeah, eviction, something we do every year. We use one of the ones that I think is the most effective for us that it's like I maybe wasn't expecting it to be effective for us when I got into housing years ago was we put a lot of students on housing probation. So if they're we've had 2 alcohol incidents with them in a semester. We just remind them a 3rd alcohol violation is in our policy is worthy of eviction. And so after a 2nd, we put them on probation, and then any instances we have with them could result in eviction. And so typically that for them is kind of like an eye-opener. But we do all sorts of stuff. We have letters of apology if we feel like maybe the community has been disrupted and a student needs to kind of try to mend that issue with the community that they live in, we've utilized that. Obviously, like no contact orders and stuff like that if it's ever two students that are having issues with each other. But yeah, we kind of do all sorts of stuff. And then how our student council decide? Yeah, so that's a good question too, Emily, because I mean, I think where I start with that is we just try to hire a good variety of students. And so athletes, non-athletes, traditional age students, non-traditional age students, on-campus students, off-campus students, because we want a lot of different opinions and kind of experiences represented. And so we just try to make sure we're hiring good students that we can kind of get that from. And then I just kind of step back, again, like overseeing peer review board is part of my job description, but I try to just kind of give them the skeleton of what our typical violations and sanctions would be for those violations, but I have no say in those meetings, and so I just kind of try to give them as much support as possible. And obviously, if in their decision making they have any questions to ask me about something, I can offer them a little bit of advice, but I don't have a say in any of those. So I just try to, again, hire well and try to be as helpful as I can before the hearing starts, and just kind of give them some of our standard sanctions that we've handed down for this kind of violation, and then let them make their decision on that. And go from there. And then again, like students have the ability to appeal any conduct decision we make. And so in that case, if they feel that the peer review board was unfair, there was a process flaw, they can always appeal that. And that would just go, rather than to me, it would go to Shay Dean as the director of auxiliary. So we keep the appeal process the same too. Yeah, good question. Does anybody have any other things to share? Like things that are working well at their institution? As far as like being, a way that it's allowed them to be a little bit more effective or efficient with their time? Or is there anything that anyone wanted to share about some of the things that we're doing here at RMC? Or is there any questions for Shane or myself?
Hi, just wanted to point out, Shadeen and Aaron, you all have one more question in the chat.
Oh, apparently I was muted this entire time I was talking. I was like, I don't see another question in there that I haven't done. Okay, so back up 45 seconds of everything I said. So quick recap, our student conduct board, they actually develop the list of standard sanctions and endorse any changes that we make to them or get that opportunity to review. So at the beginning of every year, the student conduct board that is hired, they review what the last year did to determine if that's the direction that they want to move forward as a board. So I think that really helps our students who go through the process buy into what we are doing and why we are doing it. Now, again, as an administration staff, we have final authority on that because we want to make sure it's educational and growth opportunity for our students versus like kicking a student out for the first time that they drink alcohol, right? That's just not growth opportunity or educational for what we want to try to do. So that's been helpful. And then Angela, yes, students do have the opportunity to appeal any damage or cleaning charges from their express checkouts. We document them very well. So we do video and photograph evidence of everything that we find so they can see exactly why they're being charged, what they're being charged. And we have, we share the price sheet out with our students. So like if you don't vacuum your room, you're going to be charged this much. And that's been really helpful for our students. Awesome. Any other last minute questions or comments that you want to share with the group now that I got myself unmuted? I feel like I need to make that button big and bright. Well, if not, please stay in touch. Let us know any questions or comments that come up later. Email Aaron or myself at housing@rocky.edu. We'd love to hear about the changes that you've made on your campuses, some things that you're finding making you more efficient, more effective in your jobs. I applaud all the work that all of you are doing. This really resonated very well with our speakers yesterday about just recognizing the good work that our student affairs professionals are doing, and it is a thankless job. So I want you to know that here at Rocky Mountain College, we appreciate all the work that you guys are doing across the country for our students and with limited resources and limited thank yous. So just know that you are appreciated and valued and recognized here in Montana. Have a great day, everybody, and look forward to future chats through this conference.
Thanks, everyone. Please make sure you complete the evaluations. Thank you, Shadeen. Thank you, Aaron. You all great.